Okay everybody, today we're going to dive into Green Lantern number 3, but before we do that, I need to talk briefly about the previous issue. There was actually a page missing from the digital version of Green Lantern number 2. Big thanks to Chad from the Lantern Cast for both letting me know about this and sending me a picture he took of the physical version. This is a text page similar to what we got in issue number 1, and the top half tells us a lot of what we already knew about Sector 2814 being quarantined by order of the United Planets. The bottom half is where things get interesting. We get a list of people of interest to the United Planets, and it's marked as urgent. Again, some of it is what we already know. Sinestro's location is unknown, Hal is inactive but they've detected an energy source in his vicinity, and they don't know where John is. But then we get Hal's redacted field report about someone dying. We also get a redacted field report from Kyle, and all the other Lanterns from Earth have been reassigned. Now, between the first 2 issues of this series, and both issues of Night Terror's Green Lantern, we know that something bad happened on the planet Korugar. We know Hal was there, and it's the reason he quit the Corps. And we know someone died. When you think about all of that, and you look back on all of the issues Jeremy Adams wrote so far, what seems most likely is that Kilowog is dead. We've seen Hal sitting alone, raising his glass to the night sky while talking to Kilowog as if he was right there. We've seen various moments of Kilowog suddenly appearing beside Hal, giving advice as though he'd been there the whole time. There was even that moment in Night Terrors where Hal figured out the dream couldn't be real because Kilowog was still there. So it's very possible that soon we're going to find out that Kilowog died on Korugar. However, there's always the possibility that all the Kilowog stuff is pointing to something else entirely. As we'll talk about more in a few minutes, Jeremy Adams loves bringing back obscure Silver Age ideas, so maybe there's another explanation for what's been going on that we just can't see yet. And if Kilowog isn't the one who died on Korugar, who did? Does the answer have anything to do with Sinestro being sad and powerless on Earth? Could it be his daughter Saranic? Hal and Sinestro are both in play, and we now know that there's a plan for Kyle. If it's not Kilowog, then there are only so many other characters that could impact all of them like this, and Saranic Natu could fit. But at this point, I'm just wildly speculating based on way too little information. Hell, Sinestro being on Earth may not even have anything to do with what happened on Korugar. We'll just have to wait and see. Although, one thing that I think is going to be very important to keep in mind is that we still have no idea why the sector has been quarantined. I think for that, we'll have to look more closely at the Manhunters, since the very first weird thing to happen in this run was some random guy buying old Manhunter armor on the internet that didn't even work anymore until one day it suddenly turned itself on. Kind of like Hal's new ring suddenly turns itself back on in this issue. Hal did make this ring from the Manhunter's power. Let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Speaking of moving forward, let's finally dive into the new issue. Green Lantern number 3, written by Jeremy Adams with art by Zermanico, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is The More Things Change. We begin in the past. A month ago, Hal Jordan was taking his brand new homemade ring for a test drive, but it lost power as soon as he tried leaving the planet's atmosphere. Now he's in freefall, trying to restart the ring with his own willpower. The ring comes back online just in time, and it becomes clear that he needs to figure out what the new rules are. The ring has no AI, no translator, it seems to shut itself off when he tries to leave the planet, and he still isn't clear on how the recharge cycle works. All Hal knows for sure is that the ring lets him fly and make constructs. And now he finds that, with a little more effort, he can reflect the light to make his constructs appear in different colors, with the example of a totally realistic looking construct gazelle that blends in perfectly with the rest of the herd. This is a trick Hal hasn't done since way back in the Silver Age, and he even comments that he used to be able to do it with his original ring that he got from Abin Sur. Back in the present, Sinestro storms into an office building being run by disguised aliens from the planet Lar, which is a reference that goes all the way back to the year 1961 and Justice League of America number 3, where Kanjar-Ro made Hal and the rest of the League fight some of his enemies, including a Laran named Sayar Jeffen. These Larans run some kind of guild that offers aid to its members, and Sinestro needs their help. He tries to throw his weight around and uses the reputation of the Legion of Doom to get what he wants, but Dark Crisis left the Legion of Doom in shambles and everyone knows it. So Sinestro does the next best thing. He blackmails them into helping him. In exchange for not blowing the whistle on their whole operation, the guild agrees to supply Sinestro with some goons to go attack Ferris aircraft. They kill 3 of Carol's security guards and injure dozens more. Sinestro finds the hangar where the drone jets are parked, and leaves without causing any more damage. He most likely did something to these drones, which will probably be very bad, since a few pages later we find out that Ferris got their big government contract. Meanwhile, Hal is enjoying a nice moment that kinda doesn't feel real. He's in full Green Lantern mode and is pitching at a random Little League baseball game. He throws a construct ball and changes its course to make sure it hits the bat perfectly, giving the kid at bat more confidence in himself, which is really nice. Hal gets a text from Carol and flies off to meet with her, but as he leaves, we see Kilowog physically interacting with the crowd of kids. Is Hal just imagining that? Is Kilowog actually there? And more importantly, how the hell does Hal have a smartphone? He's never had one before. I guess it's possible that he used some of his first paycheck at his new job to buy one, but if that's the case, I'm always going to regret not getting to see the supremely awkward scene of Hal Jordan walking into a store and getting help with the setup. On the way to Ferris Aircraft, Hal tries to stay motivated by telling himself that when you hit rock bottom, the only place to go is up, which is honestly a really good way to look at things, except he's using that philosophy as a justification to keep pursuing Carol. He tells himself to just keep showing up, keep being charming, use that Jordan stubbornness to remind her of what we had, what we could have again. Motivational thinking is one thing, but it can't be an excuse to wear down your ex-girlfriend until she finally agrees to take you back. Carol shows Hal the security camera footage of Sinestro's attack. Neither of them know what Sinestro wants, but just knowing he's here rattles Hal, who can't stop thinking about what happened on the planet Korrigar. We see a brief flash of Hal's memory, of Sinestro fighting Kilowog on Korrigar, with Hal racing to stop them. As Hal remembers this moment, his internal monologue says, he's here. After everything that happened on Korrigar, he shows up here. I have to find him, make him pay for what he did to... Hal is interrupted by Sinestro walking right up to him and saying hello in broad daylight in the middle of a diner with a big smile on his face. So did Sinestro kill Kilowog on Korrigar? Why would Sinestro want to kill Kilowog? Why would Hal and Kilowog even be on Korrigar in the first place? How much of this, if any, is purposeful misdirection? I'm really hoping we start getting answers soon, because the questions are piling up pretty high. Now that Hal and Sinestro are face to face, hopefully Green Lantern number 4 will start to clear things up. Next, we've got the final chapter of the John Stewart backup story titled Rise of the Revenant Queen Part 3. Written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Montos, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Dave Sharp. In the other universe, the Green Lantern Corps has fallen in battle against the Revenant Queen and her army. Shepard is the last Green Lantern, and now he's fighting alongside his guardian, John Stewart. With John's help, the Revenant Queen and her forces are defeated pretty easily. But before John can destroy her, she opens a portal and escapes into the multiverse. John can't follow because that would leave this universe vulnerable. John decides to stay and rebuild the Green Lantern Corps and sends Shepard to find the Revenant Queen. John tells Shepard that the Revenant Queen would most likely target that universe's John Stewart, so Shepard needs to find him first. Back in the main DC universe, our John is sitting on the steps overlooking his mom's backyard, talking to a construct transmission of Guy Gardner, who wants to know if John is actually serious about just leading a normal life. John is concerned that if he doesn't make a clean break now, he may never be able to do anything else with his life. But despite that, he's struggling, because he doesn't know how to handle the kinds of normal everyday things that we all take for granted. And as they talk, the Revenant Queen's ring flies through space towards Earth. And let's talk about that for a second, because the Revenant Queen has what appears to be a power ring. It's what let her access the multiverse, and it may be what lets her create her army of Radiant Dead. A small detail that jumped out at me is the fact that the Revenant Queen wears her ring on her left hand. Other than Alan Scott and the Sinestro Corps, Lanterns always wear their rings on their right hand. But there's another kind of ring that's usually worn on the left hand. A wedding ring. It's worth mentioning that the word Revenant refers to someone who's returned from the dead. The other universe's John knows who the Revenant Queen is. They have history, and she feels that he betrayed her. And the ring she now wears is the same one she wore back then. When Shepard asks about her ring, John hesitates before changing the subject. I think the Revenant Queen may be that universe's Katma Tui, John's wife who was killed by a Star Sapphire. And if it is Katma, then there may be a reason why the Revenant Queen's powers look and act the way they do. John Stewart was once overwhelmed by the power of the ultraviolet lantern, an unseen spectrum of light that's made of negative emotions that have been repressed and left to fester. Unresolved emotions, buried deep and forgotten, until they re-emerge like zombies clawing their way out of the grave. Just like the Radiant Dead, an army of Green Lanterns who died just like Katma, reanimated by the power of hatred and regret. It's possible that John's connection to the ultraviolet light is what created the Revenant Queen in the first place, and the only thing that can truly stop her is for John to confront the truth of his feelings directly. Or that could all be wrong. We'll just have to wait and see. The Revenant Queen's ring does have a symbol on it that's really messing with my brain, since it looks exactly like the way they sometimes draw Genus Vel's Captain Marvel symbol, which definitely doesn't mean anything, but I can't unsee it. It looks kind of like a Star Sapphire emblem, but not quite. It also looks kind of like a Dark Stars emblem, but not quite. Those symbols could open the door to the Revenant Queen being Fatality or Marin, but considering the fact that the other universe's Green Lantern symbol looks exactly the same as the one we know, I don't see why their Star Sapphire or Dark Star equivalent would look different. So for now, I'm sticking to my Katma theory. But like I said before, this is the last of the John Stewart backups. This story is going to continue in its own book, titled Green Lantern War Journal, which will be coming to us from the same creative team, and it will be the next Green Lantern comic we talk about, since the first issue actually comes out just a few days after this video goes up. I'm really looking forward to it. This creative team managed to deliver a tremendous amount of world building, mystery, and character depth in just a few 8-page backups, and that makes me really excited to see what they can do with a series of their own. So keep an eye out, because that issue and my video will be here before you know it. In the meantime, tell me your thoughts on Green Lantern number 3. Do you think Kilowog is dead? What happened on Korugar? Is there any hope of John actually building a normal life for himself? Let me know in the comment section below this video, and make sure you subscribe so you can get more Green Lantern discussion just like this when every new issue comes out. Thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.